my 12 days of sewing, a Christmas gift to give. Today is day 9 and we are going to make these coffee koozies. Simple and easy. I got this pattern from the Fat Quarter Shop. I've had it for a few months now. I've been wanting to make it. I'm going to make it even easier. So let's get sewing. All right, we are going to make a coffee koozie. This is the pattern we're going to use, but we're going to be changing it up. You can get yourself a free copy of this at fatquartersshop.com, and then you can search for coffee koozie and the patterns will drop down. You can print yourself out one because it will have a little pattern template. All right, now that you have your pattern, we are going to change this up a little bit. This here is your list of supplies, and it says 1 mini charm pack of 12 2.5 inch squares. That's these. We are not going to piece this together like patchwork. We're going to make it easier to do and quicker. So instead, all your fabrics are going to need 4.5 by 12.5 inch rectangles. So you'll need a 4.5 by 12.5 one for the backing. I'm going to use that on the back. You'll need one for the front, 4.5 by 12 for the front, and then you'll need some quilting batting here, at least 4.5 by 12. This is a scrap of a piece that I found, but if you buy a pack, you will get a lot of uses out of it for either bowl koozies, these little cup koozies, coffee koozies. You'll find a lot to do little mini quilts and stuff. You will also need a button, just one button. I'm not sure which one I'm going to use. And you'll need some needle and thread. I keep losing my needle here, so I need to put that. I'm just going to put it right over there with my tail. All right, and you'll need an elastic hairband. Now there are directions on the back, but we're changing it up. They use those little squares to form this patchwork, and we're not going to do that. We're going to kind of like start here where it's all together. But I'm going to change it up just a tad myself. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to have their pattern cut out. Move that out of the way. And I am going to lay that how I want it on my piece here. Let me move that out of the way so I can kind of see better. Now they have this little alignment guide, so if you wanted to try to go straight across, you can definitely have it going straight. And I see this little gingham here, and I'm gonna kind of have it with that little gingham there. That's how I'm gonna lay it down. But then I'm gonna layer this on here, okay? Just gonna have that so it fits nicely on my batting. And then I want to kind of trace around this because we're going to kind of quilt it down. Let me move that up. I want to trace around this, and then we're going to end up quilting it down. So you might want something to hold it down in place as you draw your lines around it. You can use chalk. I'm going to use a Frixion pen because we're going to cut that edge. Let me get my... quilted down, I'm going to use just a damp cloth, pull my needles out, my pins out right now, and I am going to just kind of rub off the, oh, that one flew out, the chalk lines. So go ahead and grab your scissors and cut right on that line. All right, we have it all cut out, and now we are going to put that right on top of our backing. But before we do that, we're going to need to put our little elastic band in. So looking at your pattern, you can see it says put your elastic band in on this side. So keep in mind when we flip that over, we are going to be putting the elastic band in on this side. And you can mark the middle if you want to. You can go ahead and just fold it in half, and then you can take a pen and kind of mark that so you know where the placement is going to be. So when we lay it down. But before we do that, I'm going to take it over to my machine, and I am going to stitch the two things together because it was kind of hard to keep them in there without them opening up. All right, so that's going to be inside here. So stick that in here. I'm going to leave my little rat's nest out by that edge so that I see it. I guess it's important to have my loop in there. Then we're going to pin all around it. So go ahead and grab it. We need to create an opening here. Don't make comments about my pinning style. You want to have about 2 to 3 inches there. I kind of like to go on the bigger side because of my hands. All right, this is your no-sew zone. No-sew zone. We're going to start here, back stitch, go forward, back, forward, and then continue at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Keep your needle in the corner so you can pivot, and then turn it so it's 1/4 inch seam allowance down. Once again, pivot all the way around until you get here. Be sure to back stitch a little bit to reinforce so when we open it and pull it through. All right, stitch some and forward. All right, I've sewn all around, taking out my pins. This is where the band was. I went back and forth over there a little bit. Gave my machine a little bit of a hard time. All right, we're gonna cut this out. And then have mine just about all turned out, and I'm going to get my turning tool. It's a stick or a chopstick. Do not use your scissors or your seam ripper. You may regret that. You get this far and then you have to start over. So go ahead and get your corners out best you can. Once you have your corners out, we're going to give it a nice press. Try to get that lined up nicely there. I have mine all pressed right now, and I'm just going to kind of clip the opening down here because I want that to stay nice and neat and not squish out, so I'm like seeing the white on this side. So I'm just going to clip my opening, and then you can pin it too, and then we are going to top stitch all the way around the outside. I'm going to use 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to lengthen my stitch to 3.5 so it will look nice, and I'm going to start about here, and then I'm not going to back stitch because I don't want that big like lump to show or anything. So I'm going to stitch all the way down, and when I come back around, I'm just going to go over it about 1 inch just to hold the stitches down together. All right, we got the stitching all done. I'm just going to trim a little bit here. I'm having difficulty here. front. Oh, I have one more thread. Last thing we have to do is button placement. So I have a paper cup here that we can test this out on to see how far. This is the top. So let's go ahead and put this on here. And I'm going to put it up closer towards the top because I want it to fit other mugs as well. So when this comes around here, see this yellow line. So you can determine where you want to put your button. I do want it to work on a bigger cup. So test it out. You might have a cup. Careful you don't nick your fabric. Put my needle where I can find it later on, because I can find one I did earlier. And there you have it on there. So now when you put it on your cup, you'll be able to wrap this around it. Remember, I made it so it would go up higher on this one. Now that you know how to make these cute coffee koozies, you can get some of these cups. I got these at Hobby Lobby. It was a 4-pack. It's back in the Cricut section. You can order some white glitter cups that were on Amazon. It was a 12-pack and they were each $1.67 each. But you can make koozies. You can put gift cards in there to your local favorite coffee shop. You can put candy, you can put makeup, you can put nail polish. You can put whatever you can dream of in these. Happy sewing.